the way, you look like $1,000,000 these days in your home studio. You look like you lost a lot of weight. How much weight have you lost since your playing days?
Oh, shoot. Since my playing days, well, I put on a couple of after, so if I can include that, I'm down about 65 pounds in the last couple of years. So I feel better. And so I've got no complaints about my playing days, how my body feels now. Everybody's got aches and pains, and I'm excited to I've got to keep up with Stoney, my morning co-host, who is he's dropped a bunch of weight as well. So we got a little competition going.
I always wonder this with NFL offensive linemen, because I used to work with David Deal around here. And that's another guy that just lost a ridiculous amount of weight. Chris Snee as well. Is it just because you're not eating as much as you used to do is why you lose so much of the weight once the NFL days are over?
Well, I mean, that's part of it. I just don't have time. I've got 5 kids, and they're all doing something. So there's just a lack of time to actually put something down my mouth.
So you did more running around probably after your playing days, running around all your kids than during your playing days.
Yes, I'm in much better physical condition now than I was then. Sad to say.
Jon Jansen here with us. So give me kind of the scene in Detroit right now. Season ended in a positive way for the Lions, even though they didn't make the playoffs. The Lions fan, if you had to speak for the fan base right now, where's their confidence heading into this season?
Their confidence is high. It's as high as it's ever been. You're always going to have in Detroit, you're going to have a group of fans that are always going to doubt because of the history, the fact that you've only won one playoff game since 1957. And there's this faction that's going to say, hey, prove it. And that's fine. But there's a majority of the fans that are very excited about Dan Campbell, the direction of the franchise under Sheila Ford Hamp, and the fact that Brad Holmes has drafted very, very well over the past 3 years, starting to get more and more production out of those players as they continue to develop and grow. And now you're looking at this team going, hey, there's a good core of players to build around that are young, that are growing with this franchise, with this city. And it's the first time we had Rod Wood on, the team president, last week, and he said it is the first time that they know of, especially since they've been to Ford Field, but even at the Silverdome and before, where they have sold out of season tickets. Just imagine what that means in Detroit and the signal that sends to the team, to the franchise, that the fan base is behind them.
The positivity actually scares me, where everyone's being so positive about the Lions and just handing them the NFC North crown already, thinking the Vikings are going to be crap after winning 13 games last year, even though a lot of that was in some lucky, miraculous ways. I've been leaning that the Lions are a good team. They get like 8 or 9 wins this year, but they just come up short.
Oh, come on. They had 9 wins last year. How are they going to come up shorter than they did last year? Jared Goff at the end of last season was very productive. And the biggest change was, the defense was playing better. Kirby Joseph was getting some turnovers. Aiden Hutchinson grew up a lot last year, was getting more pressure. James Houston, same thing, putting pressure on quarterbacks. But offensively, Jared Goff protected the football. And he realized, I really think he came to a realization that he doesn't have to be the guy to go out there and make the big play. They're not asking him. At times, they may need him to go out there and win games, but they're not asking him to do that on a regular basis. They're asking him to be a game manager. And I think with the way that this division is shaping up, now there's a little worry about what's going on in Green Bay. They've got a very talented team. And if Jordan Love, he's not going to be Aaron Rodgers, but if he comes in and has used these last couple of years to develop, they're still going to be a challenge. I don't think Justin Fields and the Bears are ready, even though, 3 receptions through 2 touchdowns, it looked great in the preseason. I just don't think they're ready. And Minnesota, I don't think Kirk Cousins and that team, with as many close games as they had last year, I think luck is running out. So I think in the division, it's the Lions to lose. They're out there to go get it. And if you talk to this team, they're not the ones, it's the fan base that's buying in. And that's why they call us fanatics, right? We have no logical reason. We may have a number of different things that we could point to, but the team, when we talk to Frank Ragnow, when we talk to Jared Goff, when we talk to Hutch, we talk to all these guys, they readily admit hey, we were 9-8 last year. We didn't win the division. We didn't make the playoffs. We haven't done anything yet. So those guys are extremely focused.
So you go in this division, it seems like from the way that you just described it, Jon Jansen, you have the Lions 1, the Packers 2, Vikings 3, Bears 4. Is that right?
Yeah. I think that's how most people would have it. But again, I don't care about most people. That's how I have it. That's how it's going to play out. I'm telling you right now.
Look at you becoming a shock jock now, Jon Jansen. You've improved a lot from when I first started talking about you. Now you're feeling yourself with the ratings, the paycheck in Detroit. Look at Jon Jansen now here on CBS Sports Radio.
Hey, both my teams, the Michigan Wolverines, coaches poll in the AP poll that just came out, they're number 2. They've got the only returning starting quarterback in the top couple of picks, and the Lions are an ascending team. It is a great time to be on sports talk radio in the Detroit and Southeast Michigan area. You know
me, I love Michigan. I love Harbaugh. I think what the NCAA is doing is just absolutely ridiculous. Now they're going to punt this suspension. This is what I think is going to happen. If an NFL team offers Harbaugh a job at the end of the season, he's gone because it's the NCAA's fault.
You know what? I think you're probably a frequent listener in the morning. Stoney and I have been talking about that all week because the last couple of years, whether it's been Denver last year, Minnesota the year before, there's been a number of teams that have kicked the tires on Jim Harbaugh. And if the NCAA isn't going to do anything right now, and Jim has said he's willing to talk about it when it's all said and done and give his side. But I think you're right. If the NCAA does something weird and ridiculous regarding this, then if he's got a chance to jump to the NFL, I would not be surprised to see him do that. Then what's the NCAA going to do?
We're talking about a bleeping cheeseburger at the Brown Jug. I've been there at Ann Arbor and a few other things.
It's a good cheeseburger.
Yeah, it is a good cheeseburger. Big guys talking about cheeseburgers. Absolutely. Yeah. But over, what is this, 1998 now in the NCAA? Players can go make money through NIL, but the coach can't buy someone a cheeseburger?
Well, I think it's deeper than that as well. I think there's it, and I haven't seen the notice of allegations. Nobody really has, but it seems like there is it was a timing issue more than it was, a cheeseburger or whatever the meal was. It's a timing issue of when they may have been on campus, if there was contact, because we know in 2020 everybody lost their mind, and it was hard to follow the rules that the government was putting out, let alone the NCAA.
Yeah, I think it's more so the NCAA. They're very petty, and it's more so they're annoyed that Jim supposedly wasn't forthcoming with it and wasn't honest with it, and it's not really the infractions, it's the lying part about it. Now the NCAA, it's going to be a big, swinging contest.
Well, it will be, and we'll see how it all plays out. It's going to be time. It's not going to happen this year.
Yeah.
So, and if they were to self-impose some suspension this year, if Michigan were to do that, you look at the start of the schedule and it's, East Carolina.
Cupcakes.
There's 3 cupcakes, and then you start the Big Ten season off with Rutgers. So if you were to self-impose, the problem is next year, if they go to 6 games, they count 4 this year, 2 next year. That second game is Texas next year. Not such a cupcake anymore.
No, not so much, especially with next year probably going to be Arch Manning getting onto the field. Wrapping up with Jon Jansen. So let me continue this conversation with the Wolverines. The last 2 years, they've taken an enormous step. They beat the snot out of Ohio State, which I know you love. They've won the Big Ten championship, but then blown out by Georgia, disappointing against TCU. I look at this team. They returned so many players. I know you want this to be their year, but why should you believe that they're going to find a way to hoist the College Football Playoff National Championship trophy?
Well, this is the deepest, most talented team, most experienced team that Jim Harbaugh has had since he's been in Ann Arbor. You start with J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. You got a guy now who's been able to learn on the job last year. He's got some good experience. He's going to learn from some of those negative experiences that he and the rest of the team had against TCU. And then you look in the backfield with Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum. Colston Loveland, there's a guy to keep an eye on at tight end. He's going to be an absolute stud. The offensive line goes 8-9 deep across the front, all with experience. Defensive line and edge rushers. It's, again, you could go 2 deep at almost every position. And when you go to linebacker, Junior Colson, Michael Barrett's in his 6th year, Ernest Hausman coming over from Nebraska. In the secondary, you got Rodmore, Makari Page, Will Johnson, who is wearing the number 2 and is living up to that number, which is not easy to do. This is a very talented, fast, and experienced team. And here's why I think it's so important to have that. In prior years, if you had one key injury up front, if your center went down, or if your left guard went down, or if your middle linebacker went out, or your number 1 edge rusher went out, it affected how this team was going to approach Saturdays. This year, it's just next man up, and you're really not going to see much of a drop-off.
Wrapping up with Jon Jansen, I just want to get back to the Lions real quickly. You talk about your belief in Jared Goff. Jahmyr Gibbs, the 12th overall pick, even though I thought it was early, I believe he's going to have a monster season. Jamison Williams out the first 6 games because of the gambling suspension. You look around the rest of that offense, do you think Goff has enough around him for this year?
Well, we talk about that all the time. Did they Goff-proof the offense? And are they going to allow him to be that game manager? When you get Montgomery from Chicago in the backfield, you get Jahmyr Gibbs, you go get Sam Laporta and give him a quality tight end. I would have liked to have seen him catch his 4th down catch on Friday night, but hey, it's the preseason. It's time to learn. And this offensive line, a top 5 offensive line in the NFL, yeah, I think they've given him a lot of weapons. And Amon-Ra St. Brown has been a top 10 receiver. Phenomenal. Last year, and this guy, I'm telling you, I've been out to training camp. There is no one in the NFL. There's a lot of guys that will work as hard, but there is nobody that is going to work harder and have more of a drive than Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Jamison Williams, he needs to step up, needs to be that number 12 overall pick, and he needs to get in the back pocket of Amon-Ra St. Brown and figure this thing out quickly so that when he comes back in week 7, he hits the ground running and he can be an asset to this team and not someone who's trying to develop.
For years, we would always say Keenan Allen is the most underrated wide receiver in the league. Now I think that's a fight between Amon-Ra St. Brown and then probably Terry McLaurin with another one of your former teams.
Yes, with new ownership. So new hope there as well.
Yeah, you got to be thrilled about that. I know you played with the now Commanders from 1999 to 2008. This is like the greatest gift that they can get. I don't even like Josh Harris that much, but it's anybody but Daniel Snyder is 2 thumbs up from me.
It's a step up, and it'll be interesting to see how they try and work the culture in the building, on the field, and just throughout the entire franchise.
Are you believing in that team entering this season? That's in the NFC. It's not that strong. You look at the Commanders. They have talent. Where's your belief level in the Commanders?
It's going to come down to Sam Howell. I mean, what type of quarterback is he going to be? Yeah, they've got some talent at receiver. You mentioned Terry McLaurin. They've got some talent on that offensive line. Defensive front-wise, if Chase Young can be healthy and get back to what he was supposed to be and what he was accomplishing as a rookie coming out of Ohio State, yeah, I think they could be a team that ekes into the playoff. With Dallas in the division, with the Giants in the division, it's going to be tough. The Eagles in the division, heck, they were in the – I can't believe I forgot the Eagles. Don't tell Stoney that one. But when you look at the division, it's going to be hard to win games in the division. They're going to have to look outside to those other games, and I don't know if they do or not, but it's really going to come down to what type of production, what type of consistency do they get from Sam Howell, and how much can he protect the football.